Alright, so we back another video, we're back another reaction. He was dominating in high school, but ... I don't know who this is. Let's check it out. Hold on, turn me up.
All the time. That's normal. But what's not normal is that the player we're going to talk about in this video dominated the competition, but he did it in the most illegal way possible. I honestly can't believe he did this, and not only that, but he did it and pulled it off. The fact that he even tried it is ridiculous, but what's even more ridiculous is that he somehow got away with this. This story is definitely one of a kind, and you will never hear another story like this. So without further ado, let's get into this video. I think for the most part, it's every kid's dream to be the best player on their team and be one of the best players in the state and in the country. Being the star player on your basketball team, or whatever sport you choose to play, is something out of a movie. When you are the said quote-unquote star player, there's only positives. You start to get recognition on and off the court, and eventually the news channels and stuff like that, they start to talk about you. Some will even say that a lot of kids will do whatever they can to be the best player on their team. Whether that's working hard, training hard, eating right, or staying after practice, they're doing whatever they can. However, with that being said, a player that went by the name of Rashawn Richardson didn't do any of that, but he pulled off one of the most illegal things I've ever seen a player do. So Rashawn Richardson, like any other kid at the age of 17, was looking for a high school that fit him best. He wanted to go to a good school, but also to a school where he could be the best player. He was a 6'2" guard that was known for his ability to score the ball, and oftentimes he was even known for scoring more than 30 points in multiple games. Ultimately, in his recruitment process, he decided to attend a high school in Texas known as Hillcrest High. This was a high school located in Dallas, Texas, so it was a very populated area at the time. And for this high school, he immediately became the best player. He was racking up points left and right. He had a couple games with even over 35 points. The really bizarre and strange part about this was that nobody knew who he was and where he came from. Normally when a good or great player comes into a school, everyone knows where they came from. But when people were doing research on him, nobody could find his previous high school. To put it more into perspective, it was almost like somebody created him in a lab or in 2K and just put him on the earth. He had 0 records whatsoever, and this is when people really started to look into it. Because come on now, it's kind of fishy that a guy's averaging over 20 points per game and nobody knows where he's from. Anyways, continuing on, at the end of the season, he was named the Offensive Player of the Year for his district. Throughout this great season for him too, there's one thing that we need to note that we're going to touch on later in this video, so pay attention. When you're the best player on the team and you move to a new school, a lot of things come with that, like I said earlier in this video. Especially in high school, one of those things that comes with that is that girls start to fall in love with the star player. As the season was going on, he had a relationship with a 14-year-old girl, and at the time he was 17. It was said that they dated for a couple of months and they had a good relationship. They were boyfriend and girlfriend. I know what you're sitting there thinking, yo Matt, what does that have to do with anything with basketball or this player? But just wait. When the season was coming to an end, he even led his team to the state playoffs, and that was huge. The one thing that nobody could get over though, even at the end of the season, was the fact that nobody knew who this kid was a year prior. It made 0 sense whatsoever. None of the parents knew who he was, and nobody on his team knew who he was. Until this happened. One of his former high school coaches spoke up out of nowhere and said that he coached him. Not a big deal, right? He remembered coaching him. So what? It was probably a year ago at his old high school. But no, he said that he remembered coaching him from 6 to 7 and 8 years ago in high school. When that coach made the allegation, everybody was starting to go crazy.
Wait, what?
He said that he remembered coaching him from 6 to 7 and 8 years ago in high school. When that coach made the allegation, everybody was starting to go crazy.
I thought he was a high schooler. I mean, he looked like he worked for Amazon, but still, I thought he was a high schooler.
It was like, there's no freaking way. But yes, that's right. 17-year-old Rashawn Richardson, who was a basketball star in Texas, actually turned out to be a 25-year-old man that went by the name of Sidney Bouvier. Or maybe it's Bouvier, I don't really know how to say his last name, but anyways, you get the point.
That's tough. I don't know how you 25 trying to be 17, bro. I don't get it.
That went by the name of Sidney Bouvier. Or maybe it's Bouvier, I don't really know how to say his last name, but anyway.
He was 25 playing against 14 through 17-year-olds giving out 30, right? He had a 14-year-old girlfriend, and he 25. So you EDP? That's tough.
You get the point. Rashawn, who was really Sydney, and that's what I'm going to refer to him as throughout the rest of this video, graduated high school 7 years prior. The police and cops in Texas even said that the high school star had a secret weapon. His secret weapon was that he was 25 years old. Here's what the principal of his high school had to say about it. He fooled us. He did. It's painful to even say that because it hurts in both ways. I know I said his last name was Bouvier, but in another article they also said his last name was Gilstrap Portley, so whatever his last name is, it doesn't matter. His first name's Sydney. According to the official reports, it was said that he graduated in 2011 in a small high school 20 minutes away from where he was now playing.
How old was I in 2011? Shoot, I was probably like 9. I was 9 years old.
The question that everybody was asking was how in the world did they even let him get into the school? Here's what really happened and how he got in, and it kind of makes some sense. He went to the school on a random day and claimed he was a victim of Hurricane Harvey and he was left homeless and had no other place to go. Normally in those situations, according to Dallas's superintendent, they ask for ID and you've got to meet some other requirements. But that didn't even happen because the school administrators took quote-unquote pity to his story and let him in without any ID. And the rest was history. From that point on, for the next 9 months, he became the star player for a high school basketball team, and nobody knew who the dude was. Of course, when all this news was being released, he was immediately arrested because you can't do that. They charged him with tampering of government records and some other minor stuff. But hold on. Our story does not end there. Remember how I told you he was dating a 14-year-old? That comes back into play because at school he was allegedly 17 dating a 14-year-old, but he was really a 25-year-old man dating a 14-year-old girl. Some people would even say a 17 and a 14-year-old dating is a no-no. But a 25 and 14-year-old, that's a big no-no. It almost reminds me of a situation that just happened with a huge YouTuber, and I ain't even going to say his name. If you know, you know. Once he got arrested for being a fake person, basically, then the attention turned to what was going to happen with him dating this 14-year-old. Of course, like in any situation, the mother of the girl wasn't happy at all. This was even confirmed by the mother that she dated the man. And according to the mother, all she said was that her daughter and the man did kiss, but nothing else. I mean, still, yes, that does make us all a little happy because I'm sure some of us thought this was going to go in a different direction, but I don't know, that's still kind of messed up. Here's what her mom had to say about the situation. Quote unquote, I'm upset, frustrated, angry, and sad at the same time. If it's happening at Hillcrest, then it could be happening somewhere else. People need to know. It could have gone differently if he had other intentions to hurt her or to traffic her. That's straight up facts because if he was a messed up person, it could have gone horribly wrong. Before we go any farther, I was doing some research and reading some articles, and it was said that this was a great young man and all the teachers loved him. So I know he was 25 and talking to the 14-year-old, but let's just be thankful that he wasn't the worst person in the world and they didn't do anything else. With that being said, the school was receiving a lot of backlash though because this looked bad in all factors. Here's what one of the people at the school had to say about it. He took that as an opportunity, talking about Hurricane Harvey, to gain access to our schools. He was fairly savvy to be able to utilize that type of position, knowing that we were accepting Harvey students. What's even more surreal about this situation is that the person he presented himself as, which was Rashawn Richardson, previously had been enrolled into other high schools, so it looked legit. And according to the superintendent, it was said that everyone thought his only goal there at the school was to dominate high school basketball and nothing else. Others feel differently. I don't know how I feel about this situation, but I just think it was a dude that was trying to relive his glory days and nothing else. Here's what one of the teachers had to add. This is an adult infiltrating high school. People should take this seriously. No one should play it off like that. This means much more than that. And what they was referring to is that people were saying he was just trying to be a basketball star and nothing else. Most coaches he played against referred to him as a star player, and everyone in his city did as well. I don't have a problem with it either because he was averaging over 20 points per game, and he was even the best player in his entire district because he won the award. But here's what someone else had to say about him, and I thought it was pretty interesting. He was a good player, but didn't stick out as being completely head and shoulders above everyone else, other than him being very quiet, a reserved young man, and polite. Also adding, looking back on that now, it makes sense to me that maybe he was trying not to be noticed or bring attention to himself. Just by going off of that quote, you could tell that he was a good dude because they had nice things to say about him. Just like that person said in the quote, I also feel like he was being humble and polite because he knew that he couldn't slip up. And his old high school coach who ratted him out to the authorities said this about him when he was really in high school as a 17-year-old. He was a good kid. I never had any problems out of him. That's why I was shocked when I heard that all this came out, because that's not the kid that I knew. I just got one thing to say. With him and the girl, that situation is completely messed up. Don't get me wrong. But from a basketball standpoint and what he pulled off, it's really smart and it's also kind of funny. How in the world did a 25-year-old man pass off as a 17-year-old student? I guess you could say he looked young, but come on now. I think you can tell the difference.
Bro, he worked at McDonald's.
Too, I was thinking about this throughout the entire video. I have a conspiracy theory. What if the coach knew he was a 25-year-old man and he's the one who tried to pull this off with him? The high school he went to wasn't a good school, and even with him, they only finished the season barely above 500. In the previous seasons, before the player got there, they had bad years. So, what if the coach was on the hot seat and he knew the players that he currently had weren't good enough? Therefore, he knew this player that went to an old high school and he looked kind of young and he could pull something off like this. I think anything's possible. Now, I'm not saying that did happen, but it could have. That makes more sense to me than believing a 25-year-old man went the entire season without anyone knowing he was 25. Here's where I stand on it. Me, myself, and almost everyone else out there, I can tell the difference from a 25-year-old and a 17-year-old. It's not that hard. I could understand it way more if he would have pulled this off in college, because a 25-year-old in college, that's believable. But in high school, no, there's no way. I feel like there was something more behind this story that wasn't released to the public. But the sad part about this is that we'll never know. That's my conspiracy theory, though. Let me know in the comment section what you think.
Alrighty. Very interesting. Interesting story. Anyways, so that's gonna end off this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. New to the channel, and I'll see y'all in the next video.